text messages to show she willingly took part in Combs' sex life.
One of the rapper's ex-girlfriends. Now, the defense questioning the woman testifying under the pseudonym Jane about the period of time says that she flew with another famous rapper.
Tensions erupted in court today as Sean Diddy Combs faced an unexpected and dramatic twist in his high-profile case. Just as the most anticipated witness, known only as Jane, was about to take the stand, her testimony, which insiders say could dismantle Diddy's entire defense, was abruptly delayed without explanation. The cause, a mysterious outside force no one is naming, sparking immediate speculation of deliberate interference. Diddy, visibly shaken, erupted in court shouting, in frustration, and clearly blindsided. Now, all eyes are on the courtroom. Who's behind the disruption? Why is Jane being silenced? And what truth is she holding that someone is so desperate to bury?
Text messages to show she willingly took part in Combs' sex life and is not the victim of force or coercion. At one point, she cried so hard on the witness stand she couldn't even finish reading those texts. Now the prosecution says they expect to rest their case next week.
That we saw from earlier in the day about whether or not non-alleged victims could testify under a pseudonym, I think around this idea of this Las Vegas trip. Now, coming back out of the lunch break, we continue with more testimony from Jane, talking about that June 2024 incident that involved violence, where the defense got out and Jane has admitted that she initiated violence, but Sean Combs continued with that violence, leaving her with a black eye and as well a bruise to her face. They're also talking about that same interaction later on in the day, Sean Combs going through her phone and realizing that Anton, one of the entertainers, had said they had a mutual friend. Sean Combs suggesting and saying, you don't have a mutual friend. And that's when it evolved into a point where the information about Jane going to this Las Vegas trip came out, and Sean Combs is quoted by Tenny Garagos as saying, you went to another man's freak-off?
The moment Jane's name appeared in court documents, everything about the trial against Sean Diddy Combs shifted dramatically. Until then, the case had already been intense, marked by shocking allegations, media frenzy, and growing public scrutiny. But when prosecutors confirmed that a sealed witness, known only as Jane, would testify in week 5, insiders began using one word repeatedly: explosive. Her testimony was rumored to include first-hand accounts of Diddy's direct involvement in disturbing behind-the-scenes actions, far darker than what had already surfaced. Jane was reportedly close to Combs during the early 2000s years. To many of the alleged abuses and her connection to Bad Boy, records in Combs' enterprises raised serious questions about what she knew. Legal documents hinted at her knowledge of operational practices, a loaded phrase suggesting more than just music deals, possibly the concealment of misconduct or manipulation of power within the industry. While Diddy has denied all accusations and claimed he's the victim of an orchestrated takedown, the federal raids on his homes in LA and Miami in March 2024 signaled that law enforcement wasn't treating this as just another celebrity scandal. Jane's identity was sealed for her protection, her presence hidden behind initials and pseudonyms. But anticipation around her testimony reached a fever pitch as media swarmed the courthouse. Yet when the moment arrived, it never came. Her testimony was suddenly delayed due to unexplained third-party complications, according to the judge. The silence was deafening, his hand on the table and shouting at his legal team. While cameras weren't allowed, sketch artists captured a man visibly distressed, no longer the composed mogul from day one, but someone unraveling before the court. As speculation grew, who is trying to silence Jen and why?
Entertainer came to the where they were, had another interaction that didn't go as far as intercourse, but still involved drugs, and there seemed to be a dissolution of this relationship.
And they were specifically discussing an issue from 2024 when Jane testified that she flew to Las Vegas with a friend of hers who's a famous rapper, and then went to a hotel room where she saw a male escort named Anton having sex with a woman while that rapper and his girlfriend watched. She testified that that escort was somebody that she previously had a hotel night with along with Combs. The prosecution, though, wants to keep those pseudonyms, and they say that sufficient information about that event specifically and about Jane have been disclosed. Non-alleged victims who take the stand can use pseudonyms. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued that they should go on the record with their real name so that when someone hears about testimony who's outside of the trial and they might have information about that testimony, that they can come forward and offer to testify.
What this means going forward is essentially the defense is lodging this idea. Trials are supposed to be public. They are open to everyone to come and see. And the reason historically has been so that information can be gotten from anyone who knows about it. Now, they're arguing that this is an infringement on Jane's privacy because these are people that she's connected to and events that she participated in. The defense is rebutting that, though. They want these names to be public because what they're saying is if there is some information out there that could either be used to impeach her or discredit some of the testimony that is being given, that they want those people to come forward. So this could change the dynamic and the credibility of her if they come forward.
Behind the scenes, whispers of interference, intimidation, and even potential threats began to swirl around Jane's delayed testimony in the case against Sean Diddy Combs. Some sources speculated she had been pressured into silence, warned off, threatened, or delivered a darker message. The New York Post reported that federal authorities were actively monitoring possible efforts to obstruct witness cooperation in the case. Though no names were officially cited, such concerns aren't unprecedented. In other high-profile cases, involving powerful men like Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, and R. Kelly, key witnesses were often delayed, withdrawn, or mysteriously changed their stories. The stakes here go far beyond legal consequences. They threaten billion-dollar empires, reputations, and cultural influence. Jane's testimony was considered crucial because, according to her attorneys, she possesses damning material, audio, recordings, emails, texts, and possibly video evidence that corroborates existing prosecution findings, including surveillance data, photos, and insider witness accounts. Unlike distant observers, Jane was reportedly at the epicenter in the room, according to sources, which makes her both a valuable witness and a vulnerable target. Legal threats, smear campaigns, and covert pressure are all known tactics used to silence such insiders. One unnamed source told the Daily Beast that Jane's legal team requested an emergency private meeting with the judge just days before her scheduled appearance, the contents of which remained sealed, but within 72 hours, her testimony was canceled, the courtroom thrown into turmoil, and the judge went silent. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal strategy began to pivot. Initially, his team portrayed the allegations as opportunistic, motivated by fame or payout. San highlighted his charitable work and clean record. But as more women stepped forward, filing civil suits between November 2023 and April 2024, cracks began to form in that narrative. Notably, the lawsuit filed by Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend and longtime collaborator, reopened public conversations about abuse and control within the music industry. Although that case was settled in 2023, its impact reverberates, and Jane's testimony was expected to deepen the case further, not just alleging romantic or corporate misconduct, but exposing deliberate manipulation of legal systems and the alleged network of enablers that shielded Diddy from accountability for years.
Appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings. So here's what came out of today's hearing. Number one, the government acknowledged that they offered Combs a plea deal. Combs acknowledged he has no interest in taking that. They're going to move forward with the trial. They also talked about the jury selection process, which one legal expert I spoke to said is probably the most important thing that you want to pay close attention to before the actual trial starts. And thirdly, we learned that Combs will be adding 2 new attorneys to his defense team.
We're expected to hear from personal assistants and chefs, things like that, to Diddy, and whether or not they are sort of victims as well as co-conspirators. That'll be maybe a fine line to draw, but certainly with information about drug use. Remember, we heard about that potential arson, obstruction of justice. Remember, those are more of the elements involved in this racketeering conspiracy that the government really hasn't gotten on the table yet, and I would expect we would hear. Yeah, Chanel, it's looking more and more like that testimony will not be thrown out. Obviously, last week was all about the star witness, Cassie Ventura, star victim, I should say. She's victim number 1 in that government indictment. But the testimony from Dawn Richard was meant to corroborate some of Cassie's abuse. And part of that corroboration was an incident that she testified about when Diddy actually, she alleged, hit Cassie with a skillet. She was making eggs. He got, enraged and hit her with a skillet. Now, she also testified that thereafter, Diddy told her that people who spoke about these types of things tend to disappear, and that she took that as a threat on her life. The defense attorneys, rightfully so, objected to a lot of this testimony, saying much of it was hearsay. In trials, there are very strict rules. Evidence. The judge is concerned that a lot of these now corroborating witnesses may be veering into hearsay gossip. You only want witnesses to testify, and they're only allowed to testify to things that they directly saw or heard. So that's part of this objection, as well as this statement that Diddy apparently made to her. We're already seeing the defense today really try to get into those inconsistencies in Richard's testimony about whether did she actually witness this abuse or did she just see perhaps the aftermath of it. So that's kind of the issue here. The issue is the scope of the testimony. It does seem that the judge is going to allow that testimony to stand on Friday, but going into more of this testimony today, there may be a sort of a tighter scope around what they can testify.
The pattern is sadly familiar. Celebrity abuse allegations often unfold in predictable stages. Initial shock, public outrage, firm denials, and drawn-out court proceedings riddled with delays and unexplained obstacles. But in Sean Diddy Combs' case, the stakes are far greater. With both the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI executing search warrants on his properties, this is clearly no ordinary trial. The sudden silence of the once anticipated witness, Jane, has only fueled public suspicion that this is part of a broader systemic issue. Her absence doesn't just suggest a procedural hiccup, it signals a high-stakes battle behind closed doors, involving legal protections, powerful forces, and a system that may not be prepared for the full weight of the truth she carries. Legal analyst Lisa Green, speaking on MSNBC, warned that if a protected witness like Jane is being blocked through direct threats or veiled coercion, it could constitute obstruction of justice and shatter Diddy's defense. Outside the courtroom, the unrest is growing. Activists are protesting with signs demanding transparency and justice for survivors, while online, hashtags like #JusticeForJane and #DiddyTrial are going viral, with millions engaging across TikTok, X, and Instagram. Influencers, ex-bad boy artists, and anonymous insiders are leaking documents that appear to support Jane's claims, intensifying public pressure. As week 5 of the trial concludes, it's clear this case has evolved beyond the legal, become a cultural flashpoint. Diddy, once hailed as a music mogul and entrepreneur, now finds himself at the center of a storm with no clear end in sight. Though Jane's voice has been silenced now it looms large over the case, and her eventual testimony or permanent absence will determine its fate. The courtroom stands in suspense, and Diddy knows time is no longer an ally. Jane's delayed appearance didn't just shake the trial, it exposed the raw power dynamics, fear, and secrecy fueling one of the most consequential cases in entertainment history. His explosive courtroom reaction proved just how much her words matter. Now the world waits, will Jane speak, or has something far more dangerous silenced her forever? Let me know in the comments, do you believe Diddy is hiding the truth, or is Jane facing forces even bigger than him? Like, share, and subscribe for every update as this case unfolds.